Right. So today we're getting our hands dirty, metaphorically, of course, with a deep dive into the world of solid waste operators. And I got to say, when you sent over this big stack of info from RoleCatcher, I have to admit I was picturing like garbage trucks and not a whole lot else. But looking through this guide, it's way more interesting than I expected.
Yeah, it's one of those careers that often flies under the radar, but it's really fundamentally connected to so many things we care about: public health, environmental sustainability, even technology.
Yeah. And speaking of technology, I was blown away to read that AI is being used in waste management now. Like, what does that even look like in practice?
It's really interesting. Imagine this AI optimizing waste collection routes in real time. So not only is that making things more efficient, it can actually lead to cost savings for municipalities.
So less traffic, maybe even lower taxes, all thanks to smarter trash collection. That's a nice little perk.
Exactly. It highlights how this field is evolving to incorporate that cutting-edge technology. It's not just about collecting garbage anymore, it's about managing this vital resource in the most efficient and sustainable way possible.
It sounds like a mix of brains and brawn this job requires.
Yeah.
Because I know the guide mentioned operating heavy machinery, but then there's also analyzing samples for pollution, making sure hazardous materials are handled
You
correctly.
got it. That's a really good way to put it. It requires both technical proficiency and a keen eye for detail. I mean, just think about the difference between recyclable and non-recyclable plastics, that visual recognition and sorting is crucial in this role.
And what about the work environment itself? I mean, it's got to be a physically demanding job, right? Being a solid waste operator.
It can be. Yeah, you're often outdoors, sometimes in challenging weather conditions. Plus, there's the unavoidable reality of dealing with, well, garbage. It's not always glamorous.
That's true. But the guide also emphasized the positive impact on the environment as a major perk. So, for someone who's really passionate about sustainability, this career path could be a way to make a very tangible difference.
Absolutely. They're on the front lines of recycling initiatives, waste-to-energy programs, all these efforts that are crucial for building a more sustainable future.
So you're not just collecting trash. You're part of this larger movement towards environmental responsibility.
Hmm.
I can see the appeal in that. But what about the career trajectory itself? Like, let's say someone is just starting out. What's the path to advancement look like in this field?
That's where the RoleCatcher guide really shines, I think. They break down the career path into these distinct stages, starting with entry-level roles and then moving all the way up to senior operator positions. And as you gain experience, your responsibilities and likely your salary grow alongside it.
Okay, so there's room for growth. You're not just stuck collecting garbage forever. But where do you even begin? The guide mentioned something about certifications being important.
Yeah, they can be a real asset, especially as you progress. A waste management certification, for example, demonstrates your knowledge and your commitment to the field. And then depending on your specific career goals, a hazardous materials endorsement or even a commercial driver's license, a CDL, might be beneficial.
It really is like collecting badges in a video game. Like the more certifications you get, the more you can achieve in this field. Speaking of achievements, let's talk about that top rung of the ladder, senior solid waste operator. What does that role actually entail?
So think of it as the leadership position in this field. You're not just handling the day-to-day tasks anymore, you're overseeing that entire waste management process. According to the RoleCatcher guide, that means making sure everything's in compliance with all the safety and environmental regulations, developing waste management plans, and even mentoring junior operators.
Wow, so it becomes this very multifaceted role, part manager, part mentor, part environmental steward. And speaking of mentoring, the guide included this example profile of a senior operator that really stuck with me. They described them as highly skilled and experienced, someone who collaborates with regulatory agencies and promotes sustainable practices. That sounds like a career to be proud of.
It really is. It highlights how this field offers these genuine opportunities for professional growth. It's not a dead-end job at all. There's a clear path for advancement, and with experience, you can become a leader in promoting those sustainable waste management practices.
And it's not just about the feel-good factor, right?
Right.
Let's be real. A job has to pay the bills. Well, the guy didn't get into specifics. They did mention competitive pay as a major perk.
Right, and that's a key point because as environmental concerns continue to grow, so too will the demand for these skilled professionals. That means more competition for qualified people, which usually translates into better salaries and benefits.
It's a career with a future, both for the planet and for your wallet. Okay, so we've talked about the perks, the potential for growth, but what about the flip side? The guide didn't shy away from the less glamorous aspects of the job either.
Right. It's important to be realistic. While this career can be rewarding, it is physically demanding.
Yeah.
heavy lifting, working outdoors, sometimes in really unpleasant weather, and yeah, exposure to garbage.
Mm.
Those are all things you have to be prepared for.
Yeah. It's not for the faint of heart.
Huh?
But for someone who's not afraid to roll up their sleeves and get their hands dirty, literally, it sounds like it could be a good fit.
Exactly. It's all about finding that career that aligns with your strengths, your interests.
Now, before we move on, I wanted to circle back to the interview process. The RoleCatcher guide has some interesting tips in that regard, and I know you always stress the importance of preparation.
Absolutely. Being well prepared for an interview can make all the difference. And the guide is right to point out that it's not just about showcasing your skills and experience, it's also about showing your personality and how well you'd fit within the company culture.
Yeah, they had some interesting sample questions like how you'd handle a difficult customer. It made me realize that interpersonal skills are probably just as important as technical skills in this line of work.
For sure. Remember, you're often interacting directly with the public, whether it's answering questions about recycling or dealing with someone who's unhappy with their service. Being able to communicate effectively and de-escalate a tense situation that's crucial.
You catch more flies with honey than with vinegar, as they say.
Exactly. And the RoleCatcher guide actually provides some helpful advice on how to answer those behavioral questions in a way that highlights your strengths. For example, they suggest using the STAR method: situation, task, action, result to structure your responses.
So it's not just about what you say, but how you say it. And having a framework like that STAR method can help you craft those answers in a way that makes you stand out.
Mm.
I'm noticing a trend here. RoleCatcher seems big on providing actionable advice, not just general information.
They're all about empowering job seekers, giving them the tools they need to succeed.
Well, I got to hand it to them. They've given us a lot to think about today. We've covered everything from the day-to-day realities of being a solid waste operator to the potential career trajectory and even those all-important interview tips. But before we get to our final thoughts, I'm curious what stood out to you most about this deep dive so far.
You know, it's really that combination of practical skills, the environmental impact, and the community service that I find so compelling. It's a career that's often overlooked, but it plays such a vital role in our society.
I agree. It's like they're the unsung heroes of public health and environmental sustainability.
Right.
And as we move towards a more sustainable future, their role is only going to become even more important.
Absolutely. And with the advancements in technology that we talk about, AI automation, it's exciting to think about how this field might evolve in the years to come.
Speaking of the future, I think that's a perfect segue into our final thought. We were just talking about AI and automation changing the game for solid waste operators. But what does that actually mean for the future of work in waste management? Like, are robots going to be taking over, or will human skills always be essential?
That's the million-dollar question, right? It's a topic that sparks a lot of debate in many industries. On one hand, you can envision a future where AI is optimizing those waste collection routes to a crazy degree, maybe even using self-driving trucks. But you're always going to need people who actually understand how complex waste management can be. People who can troubleshoot problems and adapt to unexpected situations.
So it's not about replacing humans. It's about augmenting their capabilities with technology. That makes
Hmm.
a lot of sense. So what kind of skills do you think will be important for those aspiring solid waste operators to develop if they want to thrive in this evolving landscape?
Well, technical proficiency will always be essential. But I think we're going to see a growing emphasis on data literacy, being able to understand and interpret the data that all this new technology is generating. Imagine a senior operator using real-time data to make decisions about recycling programs, or even to identify potential contamination issues before they become major problems.
Wow, that's like next level stuff.
I can share
It
it.
sounds like the solid waste operator of the future will need a whole new set of tools, both literal and, metaphorical.
Exactly. And the RoleCatcher guide actually subtly hints at this when they talk about the importance of continuous learning. It's not just about getting the job, it's about always expanding your knowledge base, staying updated on the newest technologies, and being adaptable to change.
It's about having that growth mindset, right?
Okay.
Realizing that even a field as seemingly traditional as waste management is always evolving.
Yes, exactly. And that's what I think makes this career path so interesting. There's always something new to learn. And the work you do has a direct impact on the health of our planet and our communities.
I have to say, what started as a deep dive into a single career path has really opened my eyes to a whole industry that's in this fascinating transition. It's clear that solid waste operators aren't just dealing with yesterday's trash. They're on the front lines of building a more sustainable future.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And with the insights and the resources that platforms like RoleCatcher are providing, individuals have the tools to explore this path for themselves and see where it leads them.
It's a career path that deserves more attention. And based on what we've talked about today, it's full of potential both for personal growth and for making a real difference.
Yeah.
So to our listeners out there, if you're looking for a career that's both hands-on and forward-thinking, maybe it's time to give solid waste operation a closer look. You might be surprised.
And who knows, maybe you'll be the one coding those AI-powered waste management systems in the future.
There you go. From garbage trucks to tech innovators. The possibilities are pretty much endless. Thanks for diving into this with me today. Until next time, keep those bins sorted, those minds curious, and remember, there's always more to every career than meets the eye.